In this video, I want to address the question, does age really matter when you're applying for admission or visa in Canada? Will I be disqualified because of my age when I'm applying for admission? Or, how are the visa officers going to treat when I'm above 30 or above 40? So there are a lot of first sets to this question, and I will try to kind of address it on a case-by-case basis. So I've seen people that are 35, I've seen 39 applying for college, and they actually got admission to college, okay? There have also been some that have applied to university and they also got it, okay? Now, one of the most important things that you want to think about is when you are applying for admission, apart from age, do you have the eligibility criteria for that particular admission that you're seeking? Okay, so there is no place in the website where, or in any university or college, where they're going to state, oh, you must be below this certain age for you to be given admission. But there are a lot of things to consider. One of them is going to be study gap, okay? So if you finish the last education you had was about 20 years ago, one of the things that the admission you kind of think of is, well, is this person going to be able to cope with going back to school now? This person has been out of school for a very long time, okay? Now, this is usually my advice. When you've been out of school for a very long time, when you're planning to apply for admission now, you shouldn't be applying for something related to just what you studied. Let's say you did engineering about 15 years ago, and you've been working in the bank now for about, for about 10, 12 years. And after that, you're thinking, oh, I want to go back to my engineering and go apply for either a diploma or a master's in that area. That is where it's going to become a problem, because you've been out of that field, for about 15 years. Now you're coming back. So those are some of the things the admissions committee will consider. Now, there are some colleges or some universities that will say, oh, if you've been out of school for a certain time, okay, then it's going to be an issue, okay? So in cases like that, just make sure you submit your resume, okay? Your resume is, when you're applying for admission, your resume is really what you're going to use to convince the admission team that, well, even though I've been out of school for about 15 years or 10 years, as the case may be, that I've actually been actively working, I've been in this field for a long time, okay? Let's say you've been in the business field for about 10 years, but you don't have a business degree. Now, you want to go apply for a Master's of Business Administration, MBA. That is very reasonable, right? Even though you want to apply for a diploma in something related to business, that is also fine. So if you can convince the admission team, then that's good. The only thing is that with colleges, you don't really, a lot of them don't require you to write SOP when you're applying for admission. So it's technically your CV that you just need to back up whatever experiences that you've had. So make sure you have a resume or CV kind of tailored to whatever application you're doing, at least to justify whatever you're doing, okay? Now, another thing is that if you compare universities to colleges, if you have a very high GPA, then university is good, right? Even though if you graduated like 10 years ago, even though you've had a lot of experience now, when they want to apply, when maybe you're applying for masters, right? You had the undergrad like 10 years ago. One of the things you always want to consider, or they will kind of think about, is why is this person coming back to school now, okay? And can they cope? So if you can justify, then maybe for universities now, you're going to write a very detailed statement of purpose. It is actually with this statement of purpose that you can outline the reasons why you're coming back to school. And if you can really justify, there's not going to be a problem. Is this lack of justification is kind of an issue, right? And another thing is, if you are just, let's say, you just did your secondary school and you don't have any post-secondary education, yeah, you can also get admission, Okay, but don't just submit your WAEC or your C. For those that are in West Africa, they call it the West African Examination Council WAEC. In your country, is going to be whatever exam that you write to mark the end of your high school. That is always amazing, right? So one of the things you want to think about is I finished my secondary schools. I had my certificate about 10 years ago. Now I want to apply for a bachelor's degree. Okay, in fact, I was helping someone look through admissions some time ago at one university in Canada, and the person actually finished their high school about 3 years ago. Okay, and then one of the things they've said was that, what were you doing within those 3 years? Give us a rundown. They will give you a form to fill, and then you fill that form, and then you explain what you'll be doing in those 3 years. If you say you'll be running a business, they're going to tell you, okay, provide evidence. If you say you've been doing training, they're going to ask you to provide evidence. So you have to always be ready to provide evidence when it's needed. This is mostly for university. Colleges are not that stringent when it comes to admission application. Okay, so that is kind of how, make sure you add that CV, and then it justifies that process. So you can still apply for bachelor's degree in a university. Okay, that's very sure. But you have to justify, like I said. If you're applying to universities, you have to, so colleges, yeah, it is usually more. You can easily get admission in colleges. So that's kind of, if you're above 35 going to 36 or above 30 or whatever, and you really think your GPA is not high, and you have like a 10-15 year study gap, then you can definitely try at colleges, because it's going to be a little bit easier. Okay, now in terms of visa application, the visa officer don't really care about your age. Okay, the most important thing that matters to them is, do you meet the eligibility? Age is not one of the eligibility. Okay, do you meet the eligibility for funds for the course that you applied for now? This is also where you have to be very strategic in terms of the course that you're choosing. Okay, it has to be a course that you will be able to explain to the visa officer that, look, even though I've graduated like 10-15 years ago, I really have been working, let's say I've been working as a HR personnel for about 10 years or 5 years, but I don't really have a degree in HR. So, well, instead of going to do a diploma, instead of going to the university to do a master's, I just want to quickly do a 1-year certificate program in human resources, so that, it is going to help my career to move forward. You know what you're actually doing? You're helping the visa officers you're kind of helping them to understand your situation. That is why the letter of explanation is one of the most powerful thing in terms of your visa application, because that is where you're kind of communicating with the visa officer, even though it's not like an in-person interview. Okay, that's very important. So you justify the reason why you're applying for that particular program. And in fact, when you are writing your letter of explanation, you don't even need to mention your age. I don't know why people do that, but it's not really important. Okay, but you have to really justify that age gap. And in the application for study permit form, there's going to be a place where they're going to ask you to fill your employment history. So with those employment history, they can say, okay, this person actually have a lot of experience in this area, so he should be good. It should be good. So if you can justify why you are doing this program, you should be fine. Okay, so the visa officers are never going to have a problem with it. As far as you've gotten admission, one step is already out of the way. The next thing is going to be convincing the visa officer why you really need this particular program. This is the reason why you can't be working 10 years as a human resources personnel, and then all of a sudden you're not 35. You feel like, I want to switch to nursing, I want to become a nurse. You can actually switch career if you think that you can really justify, that's fine. And in cases like that, what I advise people, if you want to switch career, let's say you're doing human resources, you want to switch to nursing or any other healthcare related area, then you can start by getting a maybe 6-month certification, health related certificate, and then start doing some volunteering, so kind of give yourself about 1 to 2 years to prep, to have something to show. you know, so that when you're applying for your visa, you can argue that, well, I've been in this field for about 10 years, but over the last 2 years, I've been doing a lot of, I did a course, and then I actually started doing some volunteering, and I discovered that my passion actually lies in health. You know, that's why I'm applying for this health now, and I've built myself. I've gotten familiarized with some of the curriculum. You know, I've already started reading ahead. You know, just learning some few things about that area. You know, when you talk about 1 or 2 years of experience you've kind of gathered in that area, might be voluntary, then you should be just good. So, but don't just apply without justify all of those things. It's got to be a problem. Okay, so if you can justify this to the admission officer and to the visa officer, why this program is going to be beneficial to what you are currently doing because of age, not necessarily what is studied like 10-15 years ago. If you can do that, you should be just fine. So irrespective of the age, don't be afraid, just give it a try. Apply for admission, show your CV, and then apply for visa. Write a very detailed letter of explanation as to why this program is going to be beneficial to you. So if you can do that, trust me, it's not going to be a problem. So that's going to be it for this video. If you really found useful this content, why don't you consider smashing that like button? It's really going to help YouTube algorithm recommend this video to other people. And if this is your first time on this channel, my name is Peter, and I talk about a lot of things on this channel about moving to Canada, on scholarship and spouse and life in Canada. So if this is something you're interested in, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that whenever new videos are released, you will be the first person to get notified of my video. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.